Hello and welcome back to another episode of World Traveler Cooking. Today we are going to make American style cottage cheese from scratch. Now, there are a couple things that are really important to remember on this process. The first is that cheese has two main ways in which it can be made. You can make it with acids or you can make it with rennet, and this has a huge implication in terms of texture. Okay. Rennet cheeses have that sort of smooth texture that we associate with most cheeses today, while acid curdled cheeses are like chèvre or like ricotta or like paneer are some good examples. They have a more grainy texture. They don't melt in the same way. They are they're just a different kind of cheese. Now, if you're familiar with this and you eat American cottage cheese, you will notice that the texture on it is very clearly a rennet-based cheese. It is not a acid-separated curdled cheese. So most of the recipes you will find online suggest it's an acid curdled cheese, and this is wrong. If you do that, you're going to end up with something that's basically like a soft paneer. Very different. Nothing wrong with it, it's just not the same cheese. So we're going to do this here. I have 5 liters of milk. To this I will use a bit of rennet. I'm using liquid rennet today, though you can use solid tablets. If you use solid tablets, you'll crush them and mix them in with a bit of the milk. Here we will stir it in with a little bit of the milk. And then once it's curdled, I will add a little bit of cream and a tiny bit of sour cream. This should produce something very similar in flavor to the cottage cheese that you can get at the store in the United States. Now, as an important note here, if you're working with pasteurized milk, you need to use low temperature pasteurization. This is typically brought up to the temperature of about 145 for Fahrenheit for about half an hour. That's like 55 Celsius. If you get much higher than that, then the proteins that you use to make the milk break down. So if you have a dairy that you really trust, and they're a small dairy and you're not dealing with a lot of throughput, you could do it with raw milk, or you can pasteurize it yourself. Otherwise, you can go to health food stores, and sometimes you will find minimally pasteurized milk, and that's what you want to use. You don't want to use the high temperature or the ultra high temperature pasteurization because it will not produce the same result. So the first step is to warm our milk up to 80 Fahrenheit. What? That can't be right. And 20, or that's the equivalent to 27 Celsius. So we just have a few degrees to go on this. We're at 22 when we get up to 27. And we'll just heat this up a little more, and in a couple minutes we'll be done. It won't need to be very warm, it'll just be kind of losing the cold to it. Alright, so this is now just about the right temperature, and if you were to feel it with your finger, it would be just barely cool to the touch. So we're going to take a little bit of this out, we're going to mix in our rennet, and we will mix it back in, and then we'll wait for about 20 minutes. So I just lost the clip of me adding the rennet to the small bit of milk. I have am now stirring that into the main milk. Stir that in really well, and then we will set this aside for about 20 minutes to congeal. So I'm going to stir this for about 10 seconds just to make absolutely sure. Alright, I think this is good enough. I am going to now let it sit for about 20 minutes. We'll be back and we will see how this congeals. The question is, do we have a clean break yet? Oh, that's quite a clean break. Yep. In fact, yeah, definitely very clean on that one. So now we'll break up our curds with a whisk and we will start warming this up. So I'm going to heat it up over a low heat, and basically we're going to heat this up. Make sure you use really clean hands, so good time to wash your hands again. And you can already see whey forming around these curds, and they will start to fall now. So be back in a moment once I've washed my hands. Then I'll be wash my hands before bath. So you can see here we are just starting this process. The curds are starting to settle in after we've broken them and started to heat a little bit. What's actually happened here is that the proteins in the curd are contracting and they're expelling all this whey. So as a result, they will fall. And we're just heating this up until it's going to be a bit warm to the touch. And then we're going to keep it warm until the curds contract enough that when we squeeze on them, they just don't quite break. If you heat it up too much, we'll get rubbery stuff, which won't be quite as good to eat. So we're shooting for this is I just want to show you, this is what the curd looks like if you have a nice piece of it. And you can eat it like it is. But it's going to be more like cottage cheese if we let it contract a little bit and expel the whey. Okay, so at this point I think we're about right. If I squeeze on it a bit, it doesn't completely break yet. We're getting pretty close, so I think I'm going to let this go for like another 30 seconds or so, and then I'm just going to start straining it. So basically I'm just going to set up my strainer, and a lot of people will say you have to use a cloth-lined strainer. The reason why people do this is because of pressing cheese, but since we're not going to press this, we don't need to. We can just use a mesh strainer instead. So here's what we're going to do here. Basically, I'm just going to take big handfuls of this. I'm going to put it in my mesh strainer. Break it up a little bit. Shake it down a bit. And dump it into a colander to rest. So now I'm going to take these curds. I'm going to break them up just in a mixing container. I'm just using this because I was draining the whey into it. I'm going to add a scoop of whey, maybe a little bit of whey here, just moisten them. Wow, these are becoming like cheddar cheese curds. It's wild. In goes maybe a spoonful or so of sour cream. Let's mix that around. I'm going to add a little more whey. A little more sour cream. I suspect that it would actually be better to let this lactically ferment with the sour cream culture. But today I'm just going to eat it fresh. This is looking like super large curd cottage cheese. Now, if you need a slightly creamier liquid on it, you can add a little bit of heavy cream. Doesn't take very much. If we just, at this point, stir it up, we should have a slightly more creamy liquid around, which we do. So I'm excited to try this. I've been outside the US for so long, I haven't really had American cottage cheese in forever. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do a taste test. And now for the taste test. I'm actually really excited about this. So this definitely needs to age a little bit. I think with the sour cream in there, you get a nice culture. Maybe it'd be good to put it in the refrigerator for a week. It's a little bit on the sweet side. It's a little bit squeaky. But both of those should fade within about a week, given the presence of the sour cream. On the whole, this tastes really good. It's obviously basically how it looks to be pretty close to how cottage cheese must be made in the United States. This is definitely a rennet cheese. It is small pieces of curd. Has the right firmness. Even without aging it, I really like this. This is really something.